Greetings all, BWS2K here. We're going to get right into the action today after just a brief intro. The Brotherhood of Evil Mutants have not relented their attack on our building's water supply or water pressure. So there's not going to be any video of me and Scott. It's just going to be our voices. This is the encounter that we have set up over the last couple videos. So this is actually part 3 in a series. And I will give you a brief intro, and then we're going to start right into the action order. So basically, you've got the Vulturions here, which is 4 knockoff Vulture villains who are robbing the 11th floor of a hotel. And there's a crowd gathering in the streets below. Building security is present. The Sentinel Man, who is an original character that we made, is going to show up on the scene. One thing I will point out is, I believe in the last video you saw a shot of this page set up. It didn't have the picture of them, so now there's a picture of them. But also, I did change out their reflexes die for flight, just because the more I thought on it, the more it just made sense. I mean, look at the distinction. They just fly, right? So if they need to dodge, they'll fly out of the way, and that would be the flight trait. So I did make that small change. You may have noticed if you watched the last video. So we're going to get right into it. So setting, we kind of have an idea of what the scene's going on. So I think Sentinel Man, I think he's probably, watching over his junkyard, Eddie's Exotic Emporium of Odds and Ends, or Eddie's Emporium of Exotic Odds and Ends. I always mess it up. I need to write it down. I'll write it down for next time. Don't worry. And the truth is everybody confuses it. It's fine. So I think he's probably sitting back in the office and sort of sees these off in the distance. He can hear the sirens, obviously, but off in the distance he can see these flying figures circling the 11th floor, and sort of starts to put 2 and 2 together. And I think he's probably got the radio on too, as he's going through the sheets for balancing the ledgers and things like that. And here's the announcement, sort of the APB, right? Maybe he's got a police scanner. I bet he's got a police scanner. And so he seems like a police scanner kind of guy. So he hears the sort of alert of what's going on there, and having only recently come into his Sentinel Man powers and never having had the chance to really test them out, he's a practical guy. He didn't really set right out to save the world. I mean, he's got a business to run. So I think he's going to holler back to the guys, to the crew, and say that, I'm taking my lunch early, fellas. And walks out of the office and kind of says to no one in particular, "This looks like a job for the Sentinel Man." And I think he's going to fly up and meet them. So when he arrives, they'll already be in the hotel, and I think he's probably going to, I don't think he'd crash through a window. I think he respects property rights. So he's going to land on one of the balconies. Now, there isn't a layout provided in the book, but in my mind, I mean, I've been in hotels before, and this is supposed to be like a penthouse situation, these expensive suites. So I figure each one of them has a balcony. And so I imagine the Vulturions are kind of one to a suite right now, kind of hoping to meet in the hallway or outside. So I think he's going to land on the first balcony that he can get to. Now, I don't have the Vulturions set up with solo dice, but I think what we'll do is have Sentinel Man show up, and he'll move first. He'll take the first action, and then by the time the reaction comes around, by the time Scott gets to go with the Vulturions, they'll have all responded to his arrival, because it's not like they're way down the hall or anything like that, and they've probably got radio communication. So his first action, so he comes in through the balcony. He sees one of the Vulturions pulling the wall safe open, trying to hack into the wall safe, whatever, pick the lock, blow it up. Maybe they have some small explosives with them or something. It's a quick smash and grab, so this is not like super sophisticated, and it's not like they can carry much with them when they're flying anyway. So he kind of comes through the door, the slider, so probably slides it. Maybe it's open. The Vulturion probably left it open, and he walks through, and he's not really dressed in a superhero costume, other than the fact that he's got his purple hypercolor skin. He's got his suspenders, his tank top, probably a button-up shirt, but it's probably opened a little bit at the top, maybe a loose tie, and you know, brown pants, working shoes, and he says something like, he says, "And just what it is you think you're doing there." And so the Vulturian that's there is going to turn and sort of give a curses moment under his breath, and I think Sentinel Man is he's got telekinesis, right? So I think that's the most obvious thing. He's going to try to move the Vulturian away from the safe, and create a complication, put a complication onto that Vulturion, and let's see, how do we want to do that? Because they don't have a solo die. Am I working myself into a corner already? I don't think so. I don't think so, because if we stress out a die, then we stress out a die. So that's what we'll do. So we'll try to telekinetically remove the Vulturian, not necessarily trying to like do a massive amount of physical damage, but pause him in, you know, stop him in his tracks, so to speak. So let's assemble a die pool to do that. Now he is acting solo, so that's going to be 1d6. Let's see, Sentinel from the TV or refuse of the Mojoverse. I think this is going to be the refuse of the Mojoverse, because he's not even using his Sentinel physiology here. It's just the bonus features, which was sort of the side effect of the sorcery involved. So we'll go with that for a d8. And we won't use any of the Sentinel physiology. That's not coming into play here. And someone did ask, by the way, I will throw out, someone did ask recently, do you have to use each of your power sets? Do you have to use each of the SFX? The answer is no. It's whatever the situation dictates. We're not using anything to do with Sentinel physiology, so we're not going to use anything to do with it. Bonus features, though. This is telekinesis, so that's going to be a 1d10. And then we have the like juggling kind of, which is essentially area attack, which is not applicable right now because he's just facing down 1. And then let's use combat expert. Does combat expert work? Nah, I don't think combat expert works here. Oh, and you know what? I did say I want to make sure. Look at, I've even gotten caps in the chat to use 2 distinctions. So I used my refuse of the Mojoverse at a D8. So let's use hotel interior as a D4 to represent the fact that things are crowded, and despite the fact that he's trying to use telekinesis, it may just not, there may not be any place to move him to. You know, scooting him away in arm's reach away isn't really going to stop him from robbing the safe. So yeah, we'll throw that in there and grab a plot point. Pull that over onto our sheet. So this is probably not going to be a super successful action. It might actually be a horrible reaction or action, as it turns out. But that's okay. That's not the worst thing ever, I guess. So that's a total of 10 with a D4 effect for a frozen complication. So I'm pulling a D4 out of the air here because I've got to use the 6, and if I only have 2 dice that I can use, because I've rolled a 1 on 2 of them, if I've only got 2 dice I can use, those have to become my total dice. So I get a kind of default D4 out of nowhere. So a total of 10 with a D4 frozen to try to do this complication. Now Scott is, so we've got options as the Watcher, which Scott is playing the Watcher, he's playing the Vulturions. He can either add 2 D6 into the Doom pool and give me 2 plot points, or he can give me 1 plot point and add a D8 into the Doom pool. So essentially he'd be adding a D6 and also stepping it up, because there's 2 hitches there, 2 opportunities, and that's what he's going to do. He's going to add a D8 into the Doom pool. So I'm going to get a plot point, and he's going to throw in a D8 to his Doom pool. So that's my act. They do get to react, but I feel pretty confident that it's not going to happen. I'm going to house rule something here because they aren't a team yet, and I kind of talked myself into a corner right out of the gate. I mean, if you wanted perfect YouTube videos, you'd look at someone else. If you want somebody who muddles his way through the system and makes mistakes every 10 seconds, then you're in the right place. So I'm actually going to give him, well, no, because if they work better as a team, it'd probably be D6 buddy, D4 solo. So let's give D4 solo. I'm making up an affiliation die right here on the spot. They just fly as flock tactics. Let's go. Well, since we use the hotel interior as a D4 against Sentinel Man, then let's give the D8 to him, because I don't know that the telekinesis is going to move him much. But then we'll use a D4, they just fly distinction, because they really don't have a whole lot going on in their arsenal. D4, and that's going to give him, we could add a D, so the Doom pool is either going to grow by 1d6, or you're going to upgrade the lowest, and Scott's going to go ahead and upgrade the lowest die, which is one of his d6s, so now his Doom pool grows to 1d6, 2d8. We've got a 1d, we're going to throw in a d8 for crime, because, I mean, he's in the middle of crime. And if we do that, and you know what we can do too, is because of the focus SFX, we can take the D4s and turn them into a D6. I don't think blowguns matter. Flight certainly doesn't matter. But we're only going against a 10. We can probably make this happen. Yeah, no problems there. So if we do a total of 11, we add the 7 and the 4, and then the D8 effect. No problems. So Sentinel Man sort of reaches out and tries to do his telekinesis, but he's untested. We said this is sort of his first foray, and it's not, I think it doesn't do nothing, but I think probably what happens is like the coffee machine on the kitchenette area moves. Oh, I'm sorry. We've got motorcycles driving by. I apologize if you can hear them. I think probably like the coffee table starts kind of rumbling, and maybe the coffee machine that's over on the kitchenette starts kind of rumbling, and so there's things going on in the area, you know, like stuff moving around, but it's not achieving the effect that he was hoping for. All right, so that's me acting. Now it's Scott's turn. He gets to use the Vulturions, and I think this is going to, the part of the reaction of the Vulturion is going to be to alert the others. We've got company already. And the other ones are gonna, I think probably, so there's 4 of them. There's a gal and 3 guys, and I think maybe one of the guys comes in like from his balcony, kind of like flies in through the window, and then the gal and the other guy kind of come in through, maybe they bust down the hotel door. They're not super strong, but I figure they know how to kick down a door. So they kick down the door, and now Eddie, the Sentinel Man, is flanked by the Vulturions, who are going to, you know, they've got blowguns, so I think they'll give that a shot. But we were actually talking about this in the Discord. When it's kind of a situation that's impossible, it doesn't really feel like narratively the blowguns are going to affect Eddie, because he's got that durability. But it's not like he's an actual Sentinel. I mean, he's a robot. So would the blowguns actually affect him? Not really. Not really, because... yeah, I mean, you wouldn't think a poison-tipped blowgun would do anything to a Sentinel. So I don't think they're going to do that. I think they're just going to try to beat him up, you know, tackle him, take him down. He doesn't look impressive. He doesn't even have a costume or a mask or anything like that. So I think they're just going to try to beat on him, maybe tie him up. So we're going to do physical stress to Eddie. So, or excuse me, Scott is going to have the Vulturions just try to deal physical stress, just whomping on him, beating him, maybe a sack of ill-gotten gains already. You know, they're just whomping on him. So we're going to go 4d8 for the affiliation. They just fly and flock. I think flock tactics. Flock tactics. That's exactly what they're doing. 1d8 there. Do we want a scene distinction? Does Scott want a scene distinction? Scott is going to use, you know, I think he's going to use crowded onlookers to represent the fact just that they're against the clock here. You know, this was not a subtle nighttime raid or anything like that. So crowded onlookers as a D4, and that is going to allow him to bump up the lowest die in the Doom pool. So now he has 3d8 in the Doom pool. Again, crime expert, 1d8. This is, we haven't really gotten into a slugfest or anything. I mean, this is basically a caper. They're essentially beating up a hostage or something, at least from their perspective. So I don't think there's anything that would not fall under crime yet. Flight, blowguns. You know what? I think, what do you think, Scott? You want to throw flight in there? No? Okay. So we're not going to throw flight in there, but Scott is reminding me that they do have focus. So we're going to take the 4 d8s and turn them into 2 d10s. Oh, wait, we've got... Yeah, okay. So we want to do 3. So we're going to take all the d8s that we had and turn them into 3d10 and then the d4 from the scene distinction. So this is say it, assemble it, roll it, resolve it. This is them kind of just whomping on Eddie. Do physical stress. Yikes. Eddie, man. Whew. It's going to be rough. Okay. So we've got a 1, and I will spend a plot point to buy a stunt. To buy a d10 stunt die. And I think I have an idea how I might use it, but I'm not going to give it a name just yet. So I'm activating that opportunity. I'm buying the opportunity that the Watcher rolled by spending a plot point, and one of the many things you can do is get a stunt die out of that. And since I had 3 plot points, there's no reason not to do that. But Scott is going with a total of 19 with a d10 effect for physical stress against Eddie. Okay, well, he is definitely in over his head already. So I think the best he can do is sort of, not that he's falling to the floor on purpose, but I think he's probably going to end up let's have him crash through a coffee table. Yeah, I said there was a coffee table last time. I think they're just going to be beating on him, and he's going to fall to the ground, and he's just kind of trying to protect himself. That's kind of his reaction here. You know, head tucked under his arms, and, hey, what? Oh, what do you do? Oh, there's more of you. So that's going to be 1d6 for solo. Let's go with I Sentinel as a d8, because that is going to come into play a little bit, the fact that he's not just a flesh and blood. And then we'll use the hotel interior as a d4 again, because it's not like there's anywhere for him to run at the moment. He's certainly flanked. And when we do that, we will get a plot point back. Enhanced durability from the Sentinel Physiology power set. That's a pretty obvious one. Let's see. Step up or double any Sentinel Physiology power for 1 action. If it fails... Okay, so that's an action, but we can't do that because right now we're assembling a reaction pool. So nothing else there matters. And then telekinesis, psychic resistance, telekinetic blast. I'm going to throw telekinesis in there to represent the fact that he probably has some innate sort of defensive telekinesis maybe going around, that maybe he can kind of make a sort of force field around himself a little bit. Not that he's particularly great at it. Shutdown bonus, yeah. And then let's throw combat expert, because combat expert, certainly this is a combat moment, and I think the sentinel brain, sentinel instincts would kick in a little bit. So unlikely that we're going to succeed in this, but hopefully we don't fail too hard. We failed really hard. So first of all, Scott's going to give me a plot point and step up one of his d8s to a d10. Now, what can I do for a total? I can do a 10, but that's going to give them 2 heroic success. No, it gives them 1 heroic success. But that puts him right at a d12 physical stress right out of the gate. And if I spend a plot point to keep an extra 1, the best I can do is a 13, which is still going to be a heroic success for them. Yikes. All right, well, so I think we'll take it. Total of 10. Now, it was a d10 effect, so I can't even lower that. Oof. If I did... Okay. I see an out here. So follow me on this PEMDAS moment, this order of operations moment. I'm going to use a 3, and the 4 for a total of 10. Oops. Total of 10. So I got to spend a plot point because I'm keeping a 3rd die. And then I'm going to choose to have the D10 effect dice with D10 effect. Now, unfortunately, that doesn't lower the physical stress that's coming in. If I had been able to make it a D12, it would have actually lowered the incoming effect die, but I will spend another plot point as a counter attack, which you can do at any time. So I spent a plot point, so I'm going to actually... So Eddie takes D12 physical stress, because they are 19 compared to my 10. They are there's a step of at least 5 between the two of those, so that steps up their physical stress. If unfortunately they had rolled a 20, or if I had only been able to do a 9, that would have given them 2 heroic successes, and Eddie would have been taken out immediately, which would have been horribly embarrassing. So he's going to take D12 physical stress, but with the counter attack, his telekinesis, I think, sort of that telekinetic bubble, I'd like to think that the Volturion that came in through the balcony, as he's wailing, gets blasted back out and kind of like repulsed out the window. Whoosh, maybe so you've got a slider, so maybe he smashes through the glass, off the balcony into the crowd below, disoriented, or at least out of the fight for a moment. So let's take this and give ourselves a couple copies, because we got to do physical stress, D12 physical stress for Eddie. But we did succeed in, actually I can just do paste again, I think. We did succeed in using a D10 counterattack to take out at least one of the team die that the Volturians have. But took out a Volturion. Alright. So, still in really dire straits here, but it's not the worst thing ever. Now, Scott gets to pick who goes next. Yeah, okay. Scott wants to go again next to begin the next round. All right, Scott. So, kind of move like that. So he wants to, they were originally, their plan was to get out of there. But they're doing so good, beating this guy up. How dare he? That they can probably still knock this guy out, have time to grab a couple more safes, and then boogie. So they are going to continue to do physical stress, I think, to try to just knock out Eddie. So not much different than their last roll, except now there's fewer of them. So 3d8 plus flock tactics at a d8. Yeah, okay. So Scott's going to throw in the crowded onlookers again, representing the fact that there's a timed component here, and probably before long, law enforcement's going to be coming up the elevator, or another superhero might show up. So he's going to upgrade his lowest dice again, so the doom pool is now 1d8, 2d10, so we're really climbing. So d4, and then crime expert. I don't know, Scott, do you feel like crime expert still applies? Okay. All right, we'll let crime expert apply, because they're just bludgeoning again. This is probably the most combat-y expert sort of thing that they would get to. So I can see the case there, just bludgeoning someone, knocking them out. Not flight, not blowguns, but focus comes into play again, so we can combine those, and so we can get 2 d10s if we get rid of 4 d8s. Let's do it like this, and do 2 d10. So again, this is to cause physical stress, because we're still beating up on the Sentinel Man. Oh my gosh, Scott, what are you doing to me? All right, well, that is a 10 and a 10, and a 3 and a 3. So total of 20 with a d8 effect. And oof, that's gonna be tough. Oh, and they didn't even include, you're right, Scott is reminding me that he gets to roll a d12 to represent the fact that Sentinel Man has stress. It's just a 2. It's just a 2, Scott. Calm down. But you can use that as your effect die. So he's going to go with a total of 20 and a d12 effect. Now, There is an out here that Sentinel Man can take, which is when you have incoming stress, you can spend a plot point to switch it to a different kind. But of course, it also is a D12 coming in. So changing this into mental D12 or emotional D12 is probably not a great deal of help for Eddie. Good grief. All right. So what is Sentinel Man? How is his reaction going to happen here? You know, I think we're going to take advantage of the stunt die. I mean, we have to. Do we? Maybe we can do the telekinesis. Let's save it. We might be able to struggle through this. Well, 20 is a big number, Scott. I think you got me. Let's, This is a tough call. Enhanced durability will help us. Telekinesis. Let's use the stunt die. And I think I'm going to push the idea that there's this telekinetic, that he can sort of do a, what's that video? With the kid in the school buildings and they gang up on him in the forest, and then he does like a force field, or like Colossus in the old arcade cabinet game. Rah! I think we're going to use the stunt for Sentinel Man to just try and respond with a sort of telekinetic, it's not really an area attack, right, but like sort of a telekinetic bubble that just repulses the 3 Volturions off of him. So we can at least include that stunt die in there. So let's do 1d10 and then get rid of the stunt. And yeah, same as before, 1d6 because he's solo getting beat up. Refuse of the Mojo verse we will use as a d8, because that's, I kind of feel like that ties a little bit more in with the telekinetic stuff. The hotel interior we'll use as a d4 and get a plot point out of it, because again, it's cramped quarters. And he currently probably has some splinters from the coffee table that he's laying on, not helping him much in this reaction roll. Enhanced durability. Now see, the wording on the still wonky SFX says step up or double any Sentinel physiology power for 1 action. And this is a reaction, so unfortunately I can't take advantage of that SFX. It would be nice, but I cannot do it. So just 1d8 for the enhanced durability there. And then telekinesis, 1d10. Although maybe does this telekinetic blast? No, it's really telekinesis. It's not a targeted blast. It's the d10 telekinesis. They don't have any complications or anything on them, so I can't add anything there, but I can do a combat expert. All right, what do we got? We need to at least get a 16 somehow, because that'll keep the heroic success off our backs. So we can add an 8 and a 6 for a total of 15, which is not good enough. But we can spend a plot point and keep a 3rd die for a total of 8 plus 7 plus 6 for a total of 21, which is actually a success. Good job, Eddie. And then we'll go with a d10 effect, and we'll do like last time. And counterattack as well. So we'll spend a plot point again. And we actually didn't take physical stress because we were able to beat the 20 that was incoming. Scott's like raging behind me here. And then we spent an additional plot point to inflict our effect die as stress back on them. And I think we're going to do exactly what we did with the other guy. I think this time, maybe it's the, oh, I guess I can't go all the way up there. I think this time it's going to be the young lady, the Volturionette, if we will. I think she's going to go right out the same hole the other guy went, just off into so this telekinetic bubble kind of expands and blasts them. So 2 of them kind of go crashing more towards the interior of the building, but the one of them, and this time it's the gal, kind of goes flying out the window. So she is taken out of this encounter, taken out of the scene. Now, this does not represent the fact necessarily that they are falling to the ground unconscious. Okay, but this is taking them out of the encounter. There's no loyalty among thieves, even if they all dress the same and have the same power set. So I think those they're probably not landing and being knocked out. They're probably just escaping, not sure exactly that they want to stick around. Okay, so that was Scott's action, the Watcher, and now it is my turn to act. So I will act, and so we've got 2 of them left. And incidentally, if you're new to the system or whatever, the way mob dice work, it so happens that there are 4 Volturions, and I gave them 14 dice because I felt like that was appropriate. So in this case, there is a 1-to-1 ratio between the affiliation dice and the number of people in the mob. But it's not always that way. You could have 3 D8s represent a crowd of like people breaking through on a Black Friday, you know, crashing through the mall. It's not necessarily like because you have 3 dice, there's only 3 people in the mob. As it turns out, with this data file and the way we're doing things, there is a 1-to-1 ratio here. So I think, so he's just blasted them. They're on their backs. And I think he is going to, he's going to try to do what he did before. He's not trying to hurt anybody just yet, though he is obviously in a lot of pain. I think he's going to just try to put a complication on at least one of them of frozen in their tracks. Is that what he wants to do? Yeah, I think, I mean, that feels like what he wants to do. So he's going to try to sort of capture one in that sense. So 1d6, or capture 2. I guess we can use area attack because this is in action. So sort of freeze them in place. So 1d6 solo, I Sentinel add a 1d8. And we'll use Hotel Interior again as a 1d4. You know, I came up with these scene distinctions, and it was kind of just off the cuff. But the more I use scene distinctions, the more I like them as a sort of subjectively, I mean, it's all subjectively interpreted sometimes, but just kind of as a way to see how does this is a thing that's there. How does it apply to what you're doing? And I think in this case, they have nowhere to run. They've just been repulsed. They're probably smashed against the wall. One of them's on the couch, and he is kind of trying to hold them there. So 1d4 from that, which gets us a plot point that I pulled over. Refuse of the Mojoverse, I think. Again, did I already do that? Solo. D8 for refuse of the Mojoverse. D4. Okay, I already added that one in. Enhanced senses, enhanced flight. I don't think durability, flight, or senses really comes into play here. So again, it's not the Sentinel physiology, but it's the bonus features. So we're going to go Telekinesis as a D10. So we're creating a complication, hoping to complicate out these guys of a D10 complication or better. But I will use the like juggling kind of SFX, which is essentially area attack. So I will add an additional D6 because there are 2 targets. And then Combat Expert. Oops. Plus 1d8 Combat Expert. And you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do something I don't normally do. I will spend a plot point now. That allows me to add in an additional trait die. So I'm actually going to add in Telekinetic Blast as well. Just to represent the fact that this is a forceful freezing them in their tracks. Obviously, the first one did not work at all the first time he tried it, but he is in a moment of desperation and really needing these guys to be still. So this is kind of like not just freezing them in place, but sort of like pushing them, like almost like the gravity in their location has increased or something like that. So I'm actually going to spend a plot point and keep an additional trait die for an extra. So I have Telekinesis in there, and I also have Telekinetic Blast. Okay. Well, I've got a hitch. Scott's going to buy that from me. Or an opportunity, I guess, is what we call him in MHR. And he's going to upgrade his Doom Pool to 3d10, and I get a plot point out of that, which is good. Now for a total, we can do 15 if we spend a plot point. And it would complicate out one of them if it succeeds, because I could use the d10. So let's do that. Let's do a total of 15 by adding the 5, the 6, and the 4 that's on the d4. Okay. And then we will use the d10 that rolled a 4 for our first effect die. And then one of the d6s as well. So the D6 effect die isn't going to totally remove one of the mob dice, but it still counts against them. It will just be a D6 complication. So, yeah. And then I need to spend a plot point because I'm keeping a third die. All right. Scott, how they want to do this? Yeah. So I'm feeling like I agree with you. So Scott's saying that probably at this point, they're down to half strength. They're going to try to get away. They're not trying to beat him up anymore. Their goal is to get out of this room, fly out through the balcony. So they're going to go. So their reaction to this action that Eddie is trying to hold them in place is to just get out of dodge. So they're going to go 2d8s plus they just fly 1d8 plus crime expert. They're fleeing the scene. I'll allow it. Plus flight 1d10. They have focus. So Scott's going to combine the 4 d8s into 2 more d10s for a total of 3 d10. He's not going to worry about using a scene distinction. He certainly doesn't need any more in the plot or in the Doom pool. So it's essentially 3 d10. We've got 2 d8s from the team affiliation stepping up. We've got a d8 from They Just Fly and a d8 from Crime Expert. Those are combining and stepping up. And then Flight, which is just a d10. And this is just to get out of here. Yeah. Oh, Scott, I hate you. So, so easily a total of 19, and with a d10 effect. So my action did not succeed in doing, getting them out of here. But I think with their D10 effect, how do you want to do a chase scene, Scott? Let's do a chase scene. So they're going to spend, Scott's going to spend a Doom Pool die, one of these D10. Wait, can you do that? Is it in the rules? Do an effect. Maybe not. Okay, sorry. I'm trying to think through what they could do if they could create an asset instead of countering attack. But I don't think you can. I don't think you can on a reaction. So the action nonetheless was just not successful at all, and they are now. I would say that they have just leapt off the balcony. And that was the end of my turn. And I get to pick who goes next. So I am going to do what Scott did, which is to say I'm going to pick me to go next in the next round. And Sentinel Man, I mean, this has not gone well for him, but I think he needs to regain some street cred. This is his first impression. Probably some members of the press by now. Daily Bugle down below. He can connive a little bit with his buddy J. Jonah Jameson to help things some, but I think mostly this is going to be an issue where he wants to try to make a good impression. And so he's going to chase him. So he's going to leap out of the window as well and try to do what he did before. He's going to try to complicate out one. Just do physical stress? Let's just do physical stress. At this point, let's just do physical stress. No, I'm fighting against that. Sentinel Man is not just a beat-em-up guy. He wants to capture one of these guys, these criminals. That's what he's looking for. Because then people like him. Then he can hand out his business cards. Then they'll come give him his business. And he can be a good guy instead of just another guy who breaks windows and busts jaws. So he's going to, for his action, he's solo. So 1d6. We're going to use Refuse of the Mojoverse again as a D8 because we're going to access those telekinetic powers. And I think we're going to use Crowded Onlookers as a D4 because this is a risky move. Now, we're not inside anymore. We are outside. People can see. People can take pictures on their phones. This is a stressful moment if it fails. But he's just trying to grab one of them, sort of telekinetically grasp them. Again, freeze them in place that they could be captured. D4 is for that. So then we're going to go with enhanced flight, 1d8, because we are now taking to the skies. And we can take advantage of the still wonky step up or double any Sentinel physiology power for one action. And if it fails, add to the Doom pool. So we're actually going to take that D8 and we're going to make it a D10, sort of a boosted flight to just catch up real quick. And then Telekinesis as a D10. 1d10. We're not going to bother with the like juggling kind of issue, are we? Are we going to bother with that? Okay, sure. There's 2 of them left. Let's do it. 1d6 and then Combat Expert 1d8. So again, like last time, this is to freeze the remaining 2 in place. Although to be fair, narratively, we're outside. Maybe the other 2 are still kind of like falling and maybe he can grab all 4 of them. But target-wise, mechanically, there's only 2 team D8s, mob dice to target. So, oh my gosh, Sentinel Man is not doing well. Well, it's it's not the worst thing ever, because the dice that aren't ones aren't bad dice. But a D8 isn't enough. The D10s are what I need to step up past the D8. Okay, well, let's make sure, let's hedge our bets here. Scott is going to add a D6 stepped up to a D8 stepped up to a D10, so he's going to add in a 4th D10, and he's just going to give me 1 plot point for that. And I will choose for my total. I don't know if you guys can hear that. We live near an intersection, and people enjoy their loud motorcycles, so I apologize. We can add the 9 and the 7, and that's a total of 16. But we had a 15 last time, and it wasn't enough. But I really want that D10. Let's do it. Let's do it. Total of 16, so we're going to add the 9 and the 7 for a total of 16, but we're going to have a D10 and a D8 effect die. D10 and D8 effect die. Or dice, I guess. All right, Scott. Let me move my token down so I don't forget. So reaction roll for the Vulturions. There's 2 of them, 2 D8s, plus they just fly, 1d8, plus flight, 1d10. Blowguns don't matter. Crime doesn't. Yeah, crime, it's a high-speed chase or whatever. They're used to running away, which allows them, again, basically to combine that all together and make 3d10. No scene distinctions or anything like that. Okay. Well, once again, that's 19. With D4 effect, which doesn't really matter because they succeed. They've got a 1 there. I'm going to spend a plot point to activate that opportunity, and again give myself a stunt die, which may not ever get a chance to be used. But we'll see. So once again, they're moving too quick. He's not seasoned enough with the use of his powers, so they elude him and escape his grasp. But they are outside now, and this is, they are getting away. So Scott's just gonna have him keep running. So 2 D8s. This is their action to. They're basically just trying to flee the scene here with what they got. So 2 D8 plus 1 D8 for they just fly, because that's exactly what they're doing, and a D8 for crime expert, and a D10 for flight, which again we can combine all of that into just saying 3d10 because of their focus S of X. Now, if Scott was feeling froggy, he could throw in some of that Doom pool, but of course it's 4 D10s in the Doom pool, which allows him to keep a 3rd die. You gonna throw one of them in there? Yeah, all right. Scott's gonna throw one of them in there. He is less stingy with his Doom pool than I am when I'm running my games. So we'll throw an extra D10 in there for 4 D10. Hey, it's not a 20. What do you think about that? So So he's adding this up. So we can do a 12. We can do a 15 if we add all of it. No, that's not right. We can do a 23 if we keep all of it. 7, 5 is 12 plus an 8 plus a 3. Sure. You want to do that? And just have a default D4? All right. Scott says he really needs them to get away. So he's going to spend 2 of his Doompool dice. So that brings him down to just 1 D10. But he's going to keep all 4 of these D10s as his total. So that is a total of 23 with D4 effect. Now, the reality is there isn't much to do with the effect die. This is them trying to get away. So, you know, in terms of say it, assemble it, roll it, resolve it, what we're saying clearly is they're just trying to run away. They've assembled the pool to that effect. So the D4 effect die, it's not like it's dealing stress per se to Sentinel Man. Although I guess maybe, yeah, maybe we would call it emotional stress D4, just in the sense of it's going to be embarrassing in front of the crowd if this works. But it's not like it's dealing physical stress so much. I guess, yeah, let's rule it as emotional stress. To inflict emotional stress by embarrassing him, getting away. Sure. And that's a really big number. I do have a stunt die. So let's do, come on now, 1d6 solo. Sentinel Man is he's going to try to rush up and catch them. Oh, they didn't add in the D12 physical stress. Scott, you forgot. Scott's going to roll a D12 now, see if that makes any difference. Oops. That's not right. Where's the dice thing? No, you can't have that one because it doesn't fit the nomenclature. 6. The 6 doesn't really help you any, does it? Oh, you could have used it instead of the 3. So it'd be 3. Just so you have a total of 26. With the D4. Or, well, I guess in that case you'd have a D10. You wouldn't need the default dice. Yeah. All right, good job. That's fine. So the total that they have then is a total of 26 with a D10 effect. So now we've got Eddie's going to roll his, so D6, 1d6 plus I think I'm going to use from the TV because he's doing this for the crowd. And I think we're going to take advantage of the still wonky and we're going to up it to 1d10. Because he's doing this in front of the crowd to try to, you know, impress. Enhanced flight. I have to spend a plot point to do double that distinction. Pull that over. Enhanced flight, I think we will step up as well. So 1d10 from that. And if we fail, we add a die to the normal. Oh, you know what? We didn't do that last time. So add a die to the Doom Pool. So Scott, you actually have a D8 over there as well. Because we did fail last time we used Still Wonky. And Enhanced Flight is a D8. So that gets added to the Doom Pool. Okay. 1d10 from doubling. Oh, I guess I'm doubling the distinction. Not stepping it up, but I am stepping up Enhanced Flight. And then bonus features, we're going to go Telekinesis again to try to stop them, and we'll add in the D6 to try to get both dice, and Combat Expert D8. We're going to use the stunt die. This is going to be Sentinel Man to the rescue. I don't think we're going to get a 26. We've only got 1 plot point. I don't think we can make it. We can do 16 plus 2. Or, excuse me, 16 plus 6, which is 22, which is not enough. But it keeps it from being a heroic success. So let's spend a plot point. Well, Scott's going to buy the hitch, which actually gives me a plot point. So I'll take it back. And we've got to spend a die to do the 6 plus the 8 plus the 8. So that's a total of 22. So I did not succeed in this reaction roll to not take that amount of stress, though I will spend my remaining plot point to keep a D10 effect die to fail, but takes one of them out anyway. So Sentinel Man is going to take, it's not D4, what do we do, D10? So Sentinel Man is going to take D10 mental or emotional stress because he's embarrassed at this point. They have flown the coop, literally. So not much we can do about that. But he did manage to sort of telekinetically hit one of them. So I think in terms of the reaction and stuff here, I think this just represents the fact that they're not getting away. So I don't know that Eddie is necessarily saving the day as much as he is buying time for someone else to show up. Though, obviously, if he stresses them out, maybe it does represent the fact maybe their harnesses are being broken. Maybe this reaching out and doing that has kind of like snapped the 3 closest Vulturions, kind of snapped their harnesses a little bit. So they're kind of just gliding onto ungraciously or gracelessly, sort of just plummeting in a gentle way to the ground. But you know, we still got one of them escaping. All right, well, that was Scott's action, and then Scott gets pick who goes next. So Scott is going to pick me, or pick himself, sorry, because he's selfish like that. And so for his action, his remaining action, again, same as last time, this is to get away, and it's dealing emotional stress to Eddie. So we are rolling fewer dice this time. Scott's only got the 1d8 from team, 1d8 from they just fly. Excuse me, I'm losing my voice already. 1d8 from crime expert, 1d10 from flight. Focus allows them to combine 2 of those d8s into a d10. So this is to what they are doing is essentially trying to fly away, or the remaining one is trying to fly away. The result of the effect, however, will be more emotional stress on Sentinel Man. Oof. So yeah, so Scott's saying he's going to spend one of his Doom dice to keep a 3rd die. So he's going to, so maybe I should clarify. He's doing it to keep one of the D10s. When you're spending dice from the Doom pool to do that, you've got to spend a die at the size of the dice that you want to keep. So for instance, if we had a D12 in there, we would not have been able to keep the D12 as an additional 3rd die because we don't have a D12 in the Doom pool to spend. So if your Doom pool is a bunch of D6s and D8s, you have to, you can't keep 3d10 as your total. You can keep 2d10 because you normally add 2 for your total. If you want to keep a 3rd die, you have to match it to something in the Doom die that you're spending. So if you don't have a d10 to spend, then you can't keep a 3rd die if it's a d10 or greater. But in this case, he can choose to keep, excuse me, he can choose to keep the all 3 of them because he's spending a d10. So that makes a total of 16. And it's only a d4 effect for emotional stress, but if it succeeds, that's all that's needed to step up Eddie's stress, because Eddie's at D10, so anything less than a D10 bumps it up 1 more. So a D4 will be enough to bump him up to D12 if this succeeds. Oh, and you know what? You're right. Scott's going to throw in an extra D10 to represent the fact that he is already working off of the emotional stress, so maybe this will be a better roll for him. Oh, it's a 9. Yeah. Okay, so if he does the 9 and the 8 for 17 plus 2 is 19. Okay, so let's do 19, total of 19 with D8, which again, the D8 isn't functionally going to be any different than the D4. But we do get to include opponents' stress and complications. And so Eddie's emotional stress is being included in the Volturian's pool. All right, so Eddie's reaction roll to this. He's got to really impress the crowd. I don't know if he's going to be able to do that. And we've got no plot points. So let's do 1d6 for solo. Let's add the crowded onlookers as a d4 and get a plot point for that. It's not a high stakes if you're one of the X-Men or the Avengers, but it's high stakes if you're Eddie Allen, Sentinel Man. And I don't think doubling from the TV distinction is going to help us much. Stepping up flight might help. But the question is the plot point better spent to keep a third die? Probably. So let's just go 1d8 for flight. 1d10 for telekinesis. And again, I think this is... well, actually, if they're trying to fly away, and his reaction roll is to hold on to them. Yeah, so it's kind of a telekinetic pull, like trying to keep them from going away. I can see that. Let's include the 1d10. And combat expert. So this is essentially they're trying to fly away and embarrass him. He's trying to hold them still. Like his reaction is to try to hold them in place. Well, that's a 1. So Scott's going to give me a plot point for that. And step up his only die to a d12. Sitting pretty on that. For a total, the best that I can do is, if I spend a plot point, I can do a 15, which is not enough, but it's not a heroic success. But if I do a 7 and a 4, that's an 11, which is still only 1 heroic success for them, which doesn't matter. And I can spend a plot point to stress them out. Yeah, so let's do that. So Eddie, for his total, is going to choose the 7 and the 4 for a total of 11. That's going to bump their incoming stress die from a d8 to a d10, but again, it doesn't matter. It's just going to end up bumping the emotional stress up once. But we will choose the d10 effect die, and we will spend a plot point to inflict it as a counter attack, which means he can stress out that last Volturion. Whoa. So he succeeded in doing what he was trying to do, even though he failed in the reaction. So given that he is both very beat up, I think he's going to need new suspenders for starters. I think they probably snapped in the in the scuffle inside. But this was a situation where they were trying to run away and he was telekinetically holding them in place. But there's lots of people looking down there. He's got a lot of emotional stress because it was really his first foray, his debut into fighting crime, and it was in front of a crowd in daylight, in broad daylight, right? Ultimately, he succeeds in bringing the Volturians down. So I think this represents the fact that he was basically able to push them down onto the ground, pull them from escaping too far, getting too far. And so he's going gently to land on the other side of the sawhorses from the crowd that has been assembled, and they're all cheering him. And I'm thinking like there's probably like 12, 15 people maybe. There's probably a squad car that has arrived on the scene, other squad cars kind of on their way. Maybe some people taking pictures, some bugle reporters, maybe a certain spider themed reporter happens to be present and was letting this guy take the spotlight for a second. So he's got the photography going on. He has won the day and made his first impression on the public in a favorable way. He's tuffled his skirt. I mean, not his skirt, his shirt is probably ripped a bit. His suspenders are snapped on one side, and maybe he lost a shoe at some point, but his hair is definitely tuffled. But he lands on the ground and he says, they're kind of some smattering of applause. They're kind of cheering him, and he goes something like, "Well, I guess." I guess they didn't make it very far, did they? And everyone kind of chuckles at his bad joke, and he turns to the officers and he shakes their hand and he goes, "I think you guys can take it from here," and kind of winks at the camera, right? And that's kind of the end of the scene. And now he has made probably he's not wearing a mask, so J. Jonah Jameson would approve of him as a hero, right? That typically is like his masked menaces are a bad thing, but that's not what Sentinel Man is. He's not a masked menace. He's just a regular guy with purple skin and special powers. Excuse me. So he is probably going to make the next edition of Daily Bugle, which is going to be a good thing for his business, a good thing for him. Maybe somebody will seek him out to join their team. Maybe he's made some enemies here. Maybe the Volturians had been hired by someone else. Or maybe they're just going to become lifelong enemies now. I don't know. We'll have to see how that goes. So that was the scene. That was how I wanted it to play out. I think we probably made a couple mistakes in there somewhere, probably bent some rules around a little bit in there. But, that's how it is, at least at my table. That's how it is with Cortex. That's how it is with Marvel Heroic. You kind of bend things around for what makes sense in the moment. And using the crowded onlookers as a sort of timer was kind of interesting. The Volturians as a mob, I'm glad I didn't make them any more formidable, because really they were about on par with Sentinel Man. I mean, that was a good exchange of stress and stuff like that. That was definitely a good match for the two of them. So yeah, so that's the end of this video, and that is this encounter, and I will upload this tonight. And then what we will do is I will have another video. The next video will be, we don't need to make another data file, obviously, for Sentinel Man, but we will determine what the next encounter will be based on that encounter wheel, and mock up some data files as necessary and scene distinctions and stuff, and then play through that. So this is kind of the pace now. Moving forward is going to be sort of a setup of the scene and then playing through the scene. Setup of the scene, playing through the scene. In terms of XP, I don't have any milestones. I don't typically use milestones. I do like in Cortex Prime, I do like the callback, what do they call it? Session records for character growth, where you reference previous sessions in the moment, and you can get a plot point, or you can exchange them so that you can no longer do that with them, but you exchange them kind of like you would exchange for XP. And I feel like I really like the way that works for a number of reasons. So I think probably moving forward, that's what we'll do. And this actually has a title in the book, Birds of a Feather Robbed Together, as the name of this session. And I think I'd call it Birds of a Feather Fall Together. Ooh, yeah, you like that? Yeah, that's Sentinel Man coming to the rescue. Okay, well, hey, thanks so much for watching. If you have comments, questions, observations, you want to leave them in the comments section. Otherwise, from me and Scott, we will catch you next time. Excelsior.